Hello and welcome to another episode of this Expat Life. And today I'm interviewing someone again, and I'm really excited about this interview. Her name is Esther Grootenboer, and she lives in Norway. Esther was actually born and raised in the Netherlands, while a greater part of her family lived in the United States and Canada. So she was already very familiar with living abroad. And the wish to live abroad was present from a young age within her as well. And in 2016, at the age of 36, she finally moved to Norway, and she's been living there with her husband and children since. And she also works there as a psychiatrist. And living in Norway has given Esther a sense of freedom in various areas of her life. And we will be talking about those topics today in the show. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you very much. Really excited to be here and to see you in real life through the screen. Yeah,
exactly, because we
fun.
know each other from Instagram, I think. And
Right.
we've been sending some DMs here and there. And this is the first time that we're actually speaking like one-to-one, even though it's still on the screen. But it's really nice to meet you here. And can you maybe share where you're calling from today?
Yes, well, I live in the Gjøvik area in Norway. So that's the southeast, well, more the east part of Norway. And I've just finished my working day at the hospital in Gjøvik. So that's where I'm calling from.
Yeah. And you moved there in 2016. Did you move
That's right.
straight to that place, or did you live elsewhere before?
Well, we moved straight to this area, but I had a job at a different hospital. Well, it's part of the same hospital. The whole region has one hospital, but in with offices in different cities and small towns. So I started at a different working place, and then after a year and a half, moved to an outpatient clinic
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I like best to do as a psychiatrist. But it was easier to work at a ward when I still had to improve my Norwegian and have a lot of colleagues around me that could help me. And after a year and a half, I moved, to my job that I
Yeah.
have currently. Mhm.
Yeah, cool. So I know from several people in my personal life that working abroad as a doctor isn't very easy because there are so many requirements that you need to fulfill. How was it for you moving to Norway as a psychiatrist?
Yeah, as a specialist, moving from Holland to Norway, that's quite doable because they have the same rules for doctors as in the whole EU. Norway is not a part of the EU, but a lot of the agreements are the same as inside of the EU. It's more that when you're at that job, there is so much that's different from in how it is organized in Holland. And I must say I wasn't quite prepared for that. I thought, the language, that's the big barrier. That's what I have to improve.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started working there, I found out that there are medications that they have in Norway and not in Holland, and the other way around. And in psychiatry, there's a lot of legal work you have to know, and so there was a lot I had to learn, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
first year. It was really a big investment in time and in effort. And after that first year, I thought, well, now I have the big picture, and I think I could relax more, and everything
Yeah.
came more automatically after
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah,
can imagine it was a big investment and effort because you have to do everything in Norwegian also, right? So
yeah,
especially
right.
your work, it's not just looking at patients, you also have to actually talk to them. That's a
Yeah, that's
large
true.
part of it.
Yeah.
Did you speak Norwegian before you moved?
Yes, I took an intensive course in Holland online with a Dutch person that has studied Norwegian, and I used about 10 hours a week to study the language, learn more words, as good as I could on the side
Yeah.
of my job in Holland. But when I started here, I was completely shocked because in Norway, in Norwegian, there are a lot of different dialects, and people actually speak those dialects at work. So,
Ah,
so people talked in different ways. You can be in a group of people, and everyone has a different accent, and there are words that are pronounced differently. So yeah, I really had to learn a lot after we moved here.
Yeah. And so you studied Norwegian before moving, but did you already know you were going to live in Norway, or was it still a dream that you were working on? And how was your decision formed anyway to move to Norway?
Yeah, good question. No, I started learning Norwegian when I was accepted for this for that first job in Norway. So we had decided on moving, and then yeah, started to take lessons. And yeah, the whole process was it was actually so that I was looking for a different job in Holland, and I saw announcements on the internet of agencies that were looking for doctors that wanted to move to Scandinavia, to both Sweden and Norway. And that was when, yeah, my husband and I started talking about it. We loved vacationing in Austria. I'm very familiar with the United States and Canada, so that type of scenery we love. And yeah, then suddenly we found out that doctors are very welcome in Sweden and Norway. And like you said in the introduction, I always yeah wanted to move abroad, but it hadn't happened up till then. So yeah, we started talking to hospitals here in Scandinavia, and decided for Norway.
That is so cool. So you always had this wish of living abroad, but it never became concrete. And then by coincidence, you saw this call for doctors moving to
Yeah,
Scandinavia. And you figured,
yeah,
yeah, why not? I don't speak the language. I don't really know what it's like living there, I'm assuming.
yeah.
But give it a try. I think that's really cool. It also takes a lot of courage to do that, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. I think maybe the thought of it's now or never, maybe that was what made it easier. I was like you said, I was 36 the day we moved actually. And we had small children already. They weren't in school yet. So yeah, maybe it was thinking, okay, we have to do it now or otherwise the children are in school and they have their friends here, and then it's even harder to make that change. So yeah, then we decided to do it.
Yeah, so nice. We spoke before about how living abroad or moving abroad is like a nice reset of your life because you basically get to craft a whole new life from scratch again.
Mhm.
I find that very addictive. This is also one of the reasons why I moved abroad so often. Can you maybe share a little bit more about what that meant for you and how you designed your life in Norway?
Yeah. Yes, in Holland, I found my job quite stressful, and that has also to do with the amount of patients you have as a doctor in Holland. It's hard work, a high pace, but I think part of it was also myself, how yeah, what I did with the situations of stress. Just continuing to worry and to work harder and harder to do the best for these patients I was worried about, instead of taking a step back, trying to relax, calm down, also your body and your mind, and then continue, which is better for your decisions you have to make at work, but also much better for your own health. And I had yeah other colleagues that were a bit older than I in Holland had given me such advice. Take a break, maybe an exercise to calm yourself down until before you have this difficult conversation with a patient or a family. And in Holland it was like, yeah, that was not my habit. And when we moved to Norway, one of the reasons to move to Norway was because they said the Norwegian working climate is more relaxed. And when we took that step, I thought to myself, this is a great moment to implement different ways of yeah working and attacking problems. So I made some conscious decisions about yeah taking a moment in my lunch break to really yeah calm myself down. I had already taken mindfulness courses and was using that in a way. But I thought now is the moment to commit to that in a more serious way. So that's what I did. And what I sometimes work gets in the way, and you go back to habits from before. And but I like to also evaluate every now and then, again thinking about well, how do I use my working days, and making a new plan and implement things again and again, because as a human being you often go back to the old
Yeah.
habits. Yeah, but I think a move, that can also be a change of job, or maybe a move in your home country. That
Hmm.
can be a great moment to sit and think for yourself, okay, now is a new start, what do I want to do differently?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like what you say about like the way that you implement your habits and your goal. Like it's a goal of yours to do something differently now with the move. Of course, a lot of people have that with New Year's resolutions and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But a move really triggers something because you get to be in a new environment, which also fires up a little bit or sparks your habits and how you live your life. It all changes it up a little bit. So a move is a great way to really look at your habits, like what do I want to leave behind and what do I want to implement. And the problem is, however, that most of us fall back into our patterns because, they're there in our brain for a long time already. We're used to them. So how were you able to successfully implement your new habits, your new strategies, even though like sometimes you fall off the wagon and you need to evaluate it and implement them again? But how were you able to, in Norway, actually get closer to this more uh, relaxed approach at work, whereas in the Netherlands you weren't really able to do it, even though people told you to?
Yeah, well, a big advantage of working life in Norway is that the pace is a little bit slower. So you have more time to take a break. And I have colleagues that every day take a coffee break, a lunch break, and a tea break in the afternoon, or they drink coffee in the afternoon as well. Norwegians don't drink a lot of tea. Um, so I think that gave me some space. In Holland, the pace is very high, and the moment your patient goes out the door, there's a colleague that has a question, or the telephone rings. So it's difficult to make that space in your life for habits like exercises or meditation, or implement that in a working day. So that's we're very lucky in Norway, I think, with the working environment.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And when it comes to like your private life, how did the reset look there? What kind of things did you implement there to do differently than back home?
Well, what I have experienced is that when you move abroad, your family and friends are far away suddenly, and that also gives you more time and space for yourself and for your own small family at home. We moved from the city to the countryside, so that's a big difference. I'd always lived in the Randstad, in the most crowded part of the Netherlands, and suddenly there was a lot of nature around us that we loved when we were on holiday, but usually it was just a couple of weeks a year that we had this experience. And now suddenly we're in the middle of the woods, and I especially love the smell of wood, the smell of a forest.
Yeah, me too.
So so taking a walk has become a habit, and that's also a Norwegian habit. In Norway, nature is a part of life, of daily life. It's not something you only use when you're on a holiday, but it's
Hmm.
part of life, and most people go for walks. Um, when we before we moved, we thought, oh, we're going cross country skiing every day, and going hiking, and well, it's not become that intense. But we have a dog, and we like to go for a walk, and only just seeing the fine surroundings, that does something with my mind and my body. It relaxes. So that's a really positive change for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I think everyone relaxes when they are in nature. We just seem to forgot it when, especially if you've always lived in cities or in crowd areas. I share the same experience. I also grew up in that area. And only in Brazil, I finally had some more space, but it was still a city, but a very spacious city. But having like a big garden with monkeys and toucans in my garden was like already this sense that I was amidst nature, and that really always calmed me down. So, yeah, I really recognize what you say about that. And something else that I recognize is that you said when you live abroad, you don't have, you don't need to spend so much time on family and friends because it's just you and a few other people, your own family, or perhaps some friends that you made. So there's a lot of time left, a lot of space. And listening to you, I realized, oh yeah, this was my catalyst in a way to propel me into personal development, because when I had all that space, I finally found the quietness within myself to explore who I am, what my triggers are, my patterns, what I want to achieve in this life. So yeah, I always like using that space in expat life for yourself, because it gives an extra dimension, I think, to living abroad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you share a little bit more about what else did you change in your life with this reset and the time that you had? So there was already approach to work, the living in nature, how that suited you. But I know that you've also started working on online courses because you want to spread your message for prevention rather than only following up as a specialist. So maybe that's something you started there as well.
Yeah, correct. I think the thought came up about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, or maybe unconsciously. I had that thought with a lot of conversations with patients, but became more aware of it a couple of years ago. That I find it so sad that I give information to people here in at the hospital, and then I think, why didn't you hear this 10 or 15 years ago? Why did you first have to become so ill and had to call in sick at work for a long period? And finally, that person came to me and now gets information and starts to become, yeah, better again. So, like you said, prevention, that has become a big theme in my working life, and it's not really possible to do so much about it when you work at a hospital. Then they prioritize, of course, the most severely ill people. But like you said, I have a lot of free time also because I don't have family around. So I have started to make online courses on subjects that interest a lot of people, I think, to improve their quality of life and can also prevent people from becoming ill. So that's something I use my spare time on now. I have a website called hummingbee.net. And yeah, my first course is a mindfulness course in English and in Norwegian. That's online now. People can just buy it and do the course in their own pace. But I have a lot of themes in my head that I want to also develop a course on, like self love, like changing habits, improving sleep. A lot of themes that I hear that people are interested in. Uh, but it's a bit difficult to find a way in improving that without getting in contact with a medical person.
Yeah, I think those topics are super relevant and also really interesting from a medical perspective. And speaking about mindfulness, how did mindfulness help you as an expat?
Yes, mindfulness, yeah, helps me because mindfulness means being in the here and now. That's yeah, to say it in short. Yeah, it's focusing on what is and not focusing on trying to change things from the past or to influence things that can happen in the future, but focusing on now. But I think also living in nature has made me more mindful because it's like we just said, it's so relaxing, and it draws my attention to my surroundings. And I noticed that quite soon after we moved here. I drove home from work, and work has been quite stressful in the beginning because everything was new, and I had to learn the language. And like I said, it was shocking how little I knew of the language, and so it wasn't easy. And then I drove home and saw this beautiful surrounding, and suddenly a sentence came up in my head. Oh, it's much more easy to be mindful in a beautiful environment. And it's not like I want to talk negative about Holland. I love my home country, and the city also has very much to offer. But yeah, for me, being more mindful has become natural because, yeah, these surroundings, they draw your attention into the here and now, and that's quite nice.
Yeah. And so that was especially nice when you were like overwhelmed with everything you had to do at work and the struggles you were facing, and then
Exactly.
like to kind of like be more present.
Yeah.
Um, I also recognize feeling more or being more mindful in nature. But what tip do you have for the expat who is living in the city and could also be more in nature, or like his or her character would want to have that, but isn't able to go there or to be there all the time?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you ask that. What I find interesting is that nature doesn't have to be big to experience it. You can also have plants in your house, and take care of them and see how they grow, for example. And that's what I also hear about a lot of people that like gardening. You can also have a balcony and have nice flowers, and that also gardening is something that makes you focus on, yeah, that object and how it develops. So that might be a good tip for people that live in a crowded place.
Hmm.
Get a bit of nature into your house as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you can see my plants, but I have a
Oh
lot of
yeah, yeah.
tropical plants over there as well.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely it helps to. I think the color green already helps you to soothe
Yeah,
yourself a little bit. So that is
yeah,
really
I
good, I
agree.
think, to add. Yeah,
Yeah.
and rather and not only like the plants and being in nature, what is something that expats could do as well to become more mindful when they are in this first phase of their expat life, when they are so overwhelmed with all the new things and all the change?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Well, I think a part of being mindful is also being accepting to what is here and now, and accepting to things you can change. And that's also something that I've been trying to do more of myself. When I start comparing, for example, you're here and you miss your friends, and you miss things that are nice about Holland. And yeah, then it can be really good to switch your focus to what's positive yeah, at this in this place in Norway. There are things from Holland that you will never have here, but there are also many things that are very positive here that you would never have had if you had stayed in Holland. So yeah, maybe being accepting of things you can't have, and then focusing on, yeah, being grateful for what you got in your life that's new and interesting.
Yeah, nice one. And as an expat, I think by definition, your heart is split into two. Like your heart is in a place that you don't live in anymore. You miss things from there. But when you're back home, you will miss the host country or the place you lived before. Like it feels like you can never have it all. That's something that I've been struggling with and still struggle till this day, even though I'm back home. So accepting, for what you have and don't have, and be grateful for the things you do have, I think is a really good one. Something else I'm really curious about, because I interviewed someone else before to me who also lives in Norway, in Oslo, and she mentioned that it was also difficult for her to like find new friends, create a social circle, build a network. So I'm really curious because you've lived in Norway for a longer time, but also in the countryside. Like, how was it for you meeting new friends, Norwegians or expats, but like building this whole new social circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to the podcast. That was it was nice to hear what she had to say about that. It's difficult to describe the Norwegians. You have to experience them. They are very, very nice, and I felt so welcome on my first day at the hospital. Everyone was so positive that I thought that would never have happened in Holland if I had started working in Holland, not speaking the language good enough to work on my own as a doctor. The amount of help I needed in the beginning, it was it was really impressive how everyone was helping me and welcoming me. And at the same time, Norwegians are very, very closed. In the relationship when you don't know them well, it takes a long time for them to really open up, and that can feel lonely at times. Also, here in the countryside, because people often are from this area and have their whole family here. And most people work 5 days a week here. So the spare time is then mostly for the family, and also holidays are with the in-laws or your own parents, or so it can feel a bit lonely, but it comes with time. So I've been here 7.5 years now, and more and more people I meet outside of work or outside of a different for example, I have been in an orchestra, and now there's this group of people, and we went to the opera together. So you develop a more intense relationship, but it takes more time than when it comes to Dutch people. And what I found very interesting was, in Holland, I'm quite a calm person. So in Holland, my friends are also a bit more quiet than some other people, maybe not the most extrovert people. And after a couple of years here, I suddenly noticed that there are, in fact, extroverts here in Norway, but it was my habit to not become friends with those people, but become friends with more calm and
Yeah.
more people who are more to themselves. And suddenly it struck me that, wait, if I want to have more of a social life, it's much better to connect with those extroverts here in Norway instead of trying to get that contact with introverts. I think extrovert introvert is a little bit too black and white. There's a lot of talk about, are you an extrovert or are you an introvert? Especially lately, I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah.
As a psychiatrist, I think it's not that black and white. I
Mm-hmm.
can be outgoing, and I can be calm and to myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or maybe
but
you're
in
an
general,
ambivert.
yeah, maybe. But I now connect more with people that are more outgoing, that talk more freely, and that want to go out together, go out for dinner, or yeah. So that's
Yeah.
something that maybe people can that can be an advice to people abroad.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I really like this that you say it. Like, yeah, if you have a certain tendency, you tend to attract to either one of the groups, or maybe you're an ambivert, you fall in the middle, but you know more or less what you need, or what you need to recharge your social battery. And then when you move abroad, you're tempted to do the same thing. But I really like what you're saying. Like, maybe you should go for the other group, um, to find your people there. And I'm just thinking out loud now, but I can imagine it also goes the other way, because I have a feeling that I lived in Brazil. Brazilians are more extroverted, or at least they're more outgoing, and they're also super social. And for me, sometimes I needed a more quiet space, and not always go out with my friends to long samba nights. So I could totally see it can also work the other way, that you look then for the more introverted people in an extroverted
interesting.
society to
Yeah,
still find
interesting.
your balance. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like that. So, Esther, are you going to stay in Norway? What is your plan?
Yes, I can't predict what will happen the rest of my life. Never say never. Maybe someday we're going back to Holland, but we're not planning on moving. We are actually moving here in the area. We just bought a house, first time in 7.5 years that
Oh,
we are going to own
congrats.
a house. Yeah, thank you. And very much looking forward to that, to having our own place. It has a great view and a nice garden, and yeah, we really look forward to living in that house for many years to come.
Hmm.
So no plans of moving outside of Norway, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, and then the final question that I ask all my guests on the show, and that is, what hack do you have to make living or traveling abroad easier? It can be a mindset trick or a product or I don't know, something else.
Yes, well, I thought when I heard that question, I thought about what we just said, that it's good, I think, to focus on the positive aspects of the country you're living in,
Hmm.
trying not to compare too much, and being thankful for new experiences, for that country has to offer,
Yeah,
focusing on that more than of the lack of things from your home country.
yeah. I really like that one because I don't know how it is there, but I'm still a member of some Facebook groups for expats in Brazil, for example. But I'm also a member for the group of for expats in the Netherlands, and there's so much complaining going on there. And I'm like, yeah, your life is not going to get happier by just focusing on everything that's not going well in your eyes. So I agree. And, living abroad also wasn't always easy for me. I was also frustrated with some things from the cultures I lived in. But at the end of the day, it serves you much more to be just grateful for that experience. And not everyone can live abroad. So it's also a really privileged experience, I think, to have. So it's good to be grateful for it. Yeah, I like this. Esther, if people want to know more about your life in Norway or the courses that you are currently offer and are going to offer, where can they find you?
Then it's best to look at my website, hummingbee.net.
Okay, great. I will put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
Esther, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you about mindfulness and creating a whole new life and how you found friends in Norway. So thank you. And look forward to to continuing speaking on Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was
You're
really
very,
fun.
yeah, thanks.